there was this guy, I think, that said that if you want wisdom, be careful, because what you will receive is contrast. And I remember I heard that many years ago, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask for wisdom. I'm not going to ask for wisdom. Honestly, wisdom is experience, and experience can be often dark things because, yeah, we grow, it seems like, very much from this contrast and difficult experiences. But I have also heard that you can grow through wonderful experiences. And I was so happy when I heard that in an interview, that just remember, you can also grow, like in a flourishing relationship. You don't need to meet all these narcissists and then learn about boundaries. Like, you can also focus on having great experiences and learn through that. But then again, I think the contrast also needs to be there to a degree.
But
Yeah.
let me, if I could jump in real quick, the lesson that you just said, something really interesting, you can learn from a loving relationship. You can, if you listen to the nudge of the universe when the lesson needs to be taught. If you're not listening when the lesson is taught, remember, it starts with a whisper, then it starts with a nudge, then it starts with a poke, and sooner or later you're going to get slapped across the head with a sledgehammer. And that's the lessons. Just, and I've noticed that in my life, if I didn't listen to it first time, oh, okay, he didn't listen, let's make it a little harder next time. Let's make it a little harder next time. Let's make it a little harder next time, until you're like, why am I in a relationship with this narcissist? And you're like, oh, because I got to learn this lesson. I got to get out of this relationship. And if I don't fight this and get out of it, this is going to keep happening to me. And it's so true. I don't know if it's in your life, but in my life, I've seen the same lessons, the same kind of people, the same kind of situations circle themselves years down the line. And I'm like, oh, so I didn't learn the lesson. And they keep getting stronger and harder and more powerful, to the point where you're like, you get sideswiped by a car one day and you're like, oh, okay. But it starts off as a nudge. It starts off as a little whisper. Hey, why don't you do this? And then when you do, I don't want to listen to that right now. Okay.
Yeah, and it's one of the hardest things because we have these blind spots in ourselves. Like, I can
That's the
see
point.
my friends and I can see, others so well, but myself, it's just so hard to see it. And for other people, it's obvious. And I find that so interesting that there's just so many layers here that I'm not seeing clearly. So yeah, it can be really subtle, and that's why I agree. I think the universe is really knocking hard on your door, and I think that it's the same with your soul's purpose. If you're not following your purpose and you're doing everything else and follow people's expectations and actually lying towards yourself, which you
Oh,
can notice in your body because your body will rebel, then I mean, all sorts of things can happen. That's my experience, because if you have set out to do something, your soul has a contract with you and it's like, we're going to do this, and you go, you're doing that, so I need your attention. So I've experienced that a lot in my life, and especially, my depression was my biggest wake-up call. Like, I wasn't in contact with myself at all. It was just all about pleasing everybody else with my singing, and I didn't know
oh
that there
yeah.
was something called self-love, but I didn't have it. I didn't know what it was. So it has been a long journey for me. And I see that with my members in my membership. There's so many people with fatigue, especially, like, that's the new thing. So many people have fatigue and are so, drained physically. And I believe that is part of that, is my theory, is that people are pushing down, repressing energy that is actually creativity, which is life force, that they're supposed to express this, but they're instead, it's going the other way and becoming destructive. So we can't lie for ourselves, because spirit will, yeah.
Oh, no question. And a little tip that I found out is that when we're so caught up in our own drama and our own ego, that's when your blind spots are the worst, because you're caught up in your own head. Where if you meditate and you start to bring more awareness to your inner power, your view on everything starts to widen, and you start to see things that you didn't see before. That's happened to me in my life. So when you study these yogic masters or these spiritual masters, they get to a place where they could start seeing things. out a different way and start seeing things within themselves and within other people, because their viewpoint is so much wider. When you're stuck in ego, you barely can see anything. You're covered in this mud. So of course you're not going to see the blind spots. You're not going to see any of that stuff. But now you see that stuff coming from a mile away because your awareness is opened up a little bit more. But the more you go deeper inward for information and for knowledge and for source, your viewpoint starts to grow and grow and grow. And that makes life a lot easier. That's why everyone says meditate, 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 meditate.
Yeah, and that's why, expand your consciousness. That expression doesn't mean anything or make sense before you actually start to expand your consciousness and see more perspectives to something. So, have you had any spiritual experiences that you'd love to or like to share about?
Well, I was having breakfast with Jesus yesterday, and no, I'm joking.
Well, you
No, I
had an
don't.
experience with Jesus, didn't you? Like you prayed to Jesus and then to either go for this or not, and you ended up going for the podcast.
No, so my biggest, honestly, I'll tell you this: the biggest spiritual experience, one of the biggest ones I've ever had, is something similar. Where I was after that depression, I went to that depression. Almost went bankrupt, and I was days away from signing the paperwork, like a day or two away from signing the paperwork to be bankrupt, because I'd put myself into this deep debt, and for many, many reasons. I was young and had no idea what I was doing. And this guy was, it was just a rough situation. And I just I just called out to God, and I just said, you know what, God, I want to pay my debts, but I have no job. I have no opportunity here. And if you don't help me, I'm going to sign these papers because I have to protect myself. I don't want to. I want to pay back my creditors. I want to do the right thing, but I need your help. And I'll work, but you got to give me a shot. The next morning, I get a phone call from my first boss in the business. And he said, hey, I don't know if you're looking for work or not, but they're looking for an editor up north. They know who you are already. I already told them about it. If you want to go, they're willing to see you. I went up there, showed them my demo reel, got the job, started getting paid. Within a month later, I got another freelance job. So I had 2 jobs all of a sudden, and I didn't sign the paperwork, and I paid everything off the way I was supposed to. And within a year or so, I was back on my feet. Then I opened up my own company, and then the rest is history. But that was such a profound moment in life. I've discovered that most people don't ask for help, myself included. Don't ask for help. And the universe, your guides, angels, whatever you want to call them, will not interfere in your life unless you ask for help. That's such a big thing. You're like, oh, why me? Why me? Why me? Ask for help. If you ask for, truly, honestly, ask for help, not the lottery ticket numbers, the true help. I need help. I need an opportunity. I need this. I need that. It does happen. It happens almost all the time. At one point, after years ago, I was by myself, single, and I said to God in a very quiet way, I'm like, it'd be really nice if I met someone who loved me and I could love her back. That was a simple, request. Not even thinking too deeply about it. 3 weeks later, I meet my wife.
Oh, wow.
And I had been single for years, and we've been together a long time. So that literally, so those are the kind of things that happen. I don't have mystical experiences yet, where, I have things of my guests happen to my guests. That's not my path. But these kind of other experiences are pretty profound. So, that come to Jesus, I call it the come to Jesus conversation. I'm just talking out to to universe, source, whatever, about the show. And this is where we're at. And by the way, it didn't happen right away. I told you, when I started taking it seriously, it was 6 months before any hopes of something really happening. Because it took the first 6 months, I got to like 1,500, but it's just low slog. And then it jumped to 3,000 because I had one video that popped. Then it went back down. And then a few months later, but it wasn't like next month it was going. You have to do the work. And that's something that people get caught up in. They don't understand that giving control up, having faith in the universe that guides you in the way that you need to do and what you need to do in this life and your blueprint and so on is key. You have to let go of trying to control the outcome, because we don't know what's best for us in many ways. If we would have had everything that we've ever wanted in life, what a horrible life that would have been. Can you imagine when you were a teenager? I just want to eat this all day. I just want to date that person. I just want to do this. You would have destroyed yourself. You would have destroyed yourself because we didn't know what we didn't know. So you're like, oh, I really just want to make $1 million. But really the opportunity is to make 10 million in this new job or this new opportunity. But you couldn't see that. So you stopped it at 1 million, throwing that out as a number. Most people don't have these problems. But that's just an example of opportunities of what you want. You don't, just let go of the control, let the universe guide your path. But you still need to come to work every day and do the work, cut the wood, carry the water. That is your job. So every day I show up, I do my interviews, and I can't control what happens to them. I can't control who sees them. You do that for sure. You've been doing it longer than I have. You show up, you do the work, and you hope for the best. And you put it out into the universe and let God, the universe, whatever, guide it to wherever it needs to be at that time. And that's all. But you have to you can't just wait for someone to knock on your door and go, oh, here's some money. Oh, here's some opportunities. No, you've got to put yourself out there and do the work. But the key is to do the work without attachment to outcome. That's very difficult for the ego. Very difficult for the ego. But if you can do that truly, amazing things will happen to your life. I can promise you.
To watch the full video, click the link below, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel.